So, Gita, thank you very much for your time to do this. One of the themes of this WEF is to achieve security and cooperation in a fractured world. So, how fractured the world is?
This is a very critical issue that the world needs to grapple with, which is to have less geopolitical tensions and less fragmentation. We were worried about the threat of geoeconomic fragmentation. I think now it is increasingly a reality. We see this in terms of trade restrictions that are being imposed by countries. If you look at trade flows, if you look at foreign direct investment flows, you are seeing more fragmentation in the world. And this is not just in sectors where you have security concerns, like not just in strategic sectors, but even in non-strategic sectors. So it is a very important concern.
So what's the cost of the world economy if the fragmentation deepens?
Depends upon how much of fragmentation we see, right? So if it's a mild form, we're talking about losing about 0.5% or 1% of world GDP. But if it becomes a very severe kind of fragmentation, you're getting to now 7% of GDP losses, which is basically like losing the economies of Japan and Germany. Very large hits to the economy. So this can be very costly.
What kind of policies that the political leaders should do to prevent the worst case from happening?
I think political leaders obviously need to build resilience in their supply chains. They need to worry about national security concerns. But they should be very careful that in doing so, you don't end up disrupting the global trading system that has benefited such a large number of humanity in the past few decades. So we should make sure that that is preserved. Just last year and the year before, around 3,000 new trade restrictions were put in place in each of those years, right? So a very large number of trade restrictions. That is problematic for the global economy. So I think policymakers need to find ways to cooperate, to diversify in terms of ensuring they have resilient supply chains, but at the same time make sure that you don't end up with, giving up all the gains we've had from closed global trade and foreign investment flows.
So, Gita, let's talk something about China. Our premier said yesterday here very clearly that China will not seek short-term growth while accumulating long-term risks. So is that the right thing to do?
I think you have to be absolutely careful that you don't have a credit boom-driven growth story, because usually when you have that, then you end up with financial sector problems that take a very long time to unwind. So in that sense, that is correct. But there is a need for more momentum on structural reforms and on dealing with these kinds of issues. So I think we would agree on the fact that it's not about you want a bigger growth number, but more important to address clear problems that exist.
So final question, Gita. We are in the transition period. So in this period, how to rebalance the new and the old while to keep the whole economy stable?
It is correct that China is really advanced in the frontier when it comes to climate-related sectors, or when it comes to now AI. It's one of the big performers, right? So those are the new growth sectors. But still, relative to the size of the economy, they are still a small share, right? It's not enough to have investment in those sectors. You need more broader level investments, which is in terms of property sector, local government financing, structural reforms, market-based reforms, reforms of state-owned enterprises. That would be required to get much more broad-based growth. And also, we do think that it's important it would be helpful if the government was more investing in social safety nets, so that there wasn't this high level of savings that is getting built up by Chinese households.